Dr. Alvin Parker is in his 8th season as the head football coach at Virginia Union. The Panthers are twice over CIAA champions. As a matter of fact, have been picked to win the CIAA championship this year. As Dr. Parker joins us here on Box to Row. Good to see you again, Dr. Parker. Welcome back to the program.
Man, good to be here. Extremely happy to be here. This lets us know it's football season.
No doubt. Seems like we've been doing this every year for a good little while. Last year, was it extra motivation for your team to win the CIAA or to try to win the CIAA, knowing, and I get it, it's preseason, but it seems to me that if you won the championship the year before and you still had a bunch of guys coming back, you, including buyers, I might add, that you would be picked to win. You weren't. Was that extra motivation?
I can't lie and say it wasn't. That's how I vote. You're the champion to somebody else. Says so on the field. So those preseason rankings should reflect that sometime. But people vote off of what they think might happen in the off season and some things like that. But the year before, we didn't have a lot of movement. We didn't have a lot of movement at all in terms of the portal or coaches or anything like that. So our entire team was back, everybody. So I felt more you know last season that coming in. Okay, well we should probably be preseason based off of this. This year I lost a couple coaches, lost a couple players, and surprisingly we get voted number one. So it's definitely a difference in how people kind of do it. But the way I vote is always you're the champion, and just to someone else speaks different.
Yeah, I think the voters got the message this year. Even though you lost a bunch, they weren't going to not vote you because you're the champion 2 times over. Um,
Absolutely.
so just talk about last year. What a season for the Panthers in 2024.
I mean, it was like from the onset. I had so many guys around here talking about national championship, national championship, national championship, and it became just the language, so to speak. So when we were kind of going throughout the season, and we end up we dropped two, and it was just like, oh, we're talking national championship around here, and we're losing regular season games, because we lost to Hampton, which was a close one, and we went down to John C. Smith and lost a close one. But those guys never stopped talking it. So we just kind of continued the season on out and make it to the championship. You win that, you go in and into the playoffs, and you win two games that Virginia Union has never won. And we've had a bunch of great teams here, a bunch of great teams, and nobody's been able to get over that hump in 11 times, 11 tries. We get to the 12th try as far as playoffs go, and it's our first playoff victory. So what those guys have been talking about the entire times in terms of national championship. That vision never changed, and everybody kind of lived up to it. So I was extremely happy with how last season went.
3-time HBCU All American running back Jada Byers. He exhausted his eligibility for you. You do have Mark Wright coming back as your quarterback, but a guy that you lost in particular was Reginald Vick. And I remember you talking about him last year and how, and like you were like, we're fortunate to have this guy. Even the 2023 season, he had some catches. I wonder if you view the fact that he's now at Wake Forest as a disappointment, or hey, we did our job here. This guy skips 2 levels to now play at a Power 5 school.
I mean, it's hard to say that with the landscape now. It's not only happening, at the HBCUs, it's happening all over the place. So anytime these guys can kind of move up and kind of still fulfill their dreams and stay on the path towards graduation, you know, get get a lot of money doing it and all of that. You got to let him go. You can't be upset, because again, that's just the name of the game right now. So, and he's a talented player, so we knew as a staff, that if he got looked at or if somebody kind of came breezing through here, he was going to be a guy that everybody wanted, power fives, I got so many calls on him just for the simple fact of everybody seeing the numbers that he put up and how he played, and the film matched directly up. So, with the new landscape being what it is, it's tough for anyone to get mad.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of the transfer portal, I mean, you add a couple of guys that played on CIAA teams last year. Trevon Tinsley, his first team All Conference, played at Shaw last year. Zaire Tart, who played at Lincoln the previous 2 years, is you know this. At one time in the CIAA, there was the 2 year and maybe a lot of conferences, 2 year transfer rule. We're far from that. Are coaches more resigned to know that guys are just going to transfer within the conference, and that's the way it may be?
Man, that like you said, that thing used to be the death penalty. You transferring to CIAA, that's 2 years. You know, you wasn't getting back. So it never happened based on that. But now again with how the portal's set up, you're able to go from a CIAA school to another CIAA school, and I think it's a good thing because in past years, when we did have the rule in place, a lot of these student athletes were transferring out to other regional conferences like the South Atlantic or the PSAC and things like that. So we were losing them to other conferences. So at least now at this point, they're staying within the conference. So a lot of the talent is, although it's maybe shifting from school to school, at least it's staying in the conference. And it's also easy when you play against kids and you kind of see them, you know, that what their talents and their skill sets are and things like that. But I don't think it's anybody aim. But when the portal becomes open, it's kind of like I said, it's wide open. So we're glad to get our hands on some guys like that. Tinsley's a awesome back. He's fitting in with exactly what we're doing, and Tart's the same. An extremely electric player that's bringing a lot to our offense and our return game.
That the voice of Dr. Alvin Parker is in his 8th season as the head football coach at Virginia Union as he joins us here on Box to Row. How are Mark Wright? Because also, as you mentioned before we started talking, RJ Rosales returns for you at quarterback as well. Got some time for you last year. How are the two quarterbacks connecting with Tart so far?
Shoot, it's a huge battle back there, but it was a huge battle with those guys last season, kind of coming in. So RJ ended up starting the season for us last year. He got hurt in week 2, and Mark came in and we did not miss a beat. Mark ended up, leading the nation in pass efficiency. And that's a huge step for a team that, runs the ball as much as we do, we've never had that since I've been here, so that was a big stat. So then, you get to the playoff game down Wingate, Mark goes down. And RJ comes back in and wins the game for us you know, comes in the next week, against Lenore Ryan, wins that game for us. So, both of those guys have championship wins and playoff wins under their belts. And again, they're two mature guys. And it's rare to see that. You can play a couple backs, you can play a couple receivers. It's tough to play a couple quarterbacks most of the time. But we've been fortunate enough to have two guys again, like I say, that are just, I can't say they're boys, they're men, because they take on the responsibility of leading this team. They know they're both the face of the program in terms of making sure that, this offense runs a certain way. And they do it, So we're happy with that competition, but we know either one of those guys that we put out there, they're going to get the job done.
Is Curtis Allen back for you?
He is, he is.
Wow.
So we have him. He's been in a Batman, and he's been in a Robin role to Batman, so to speak, with Byers. Here he's been Byers backer for 3 years. And I think we looked at last year, and in 3 years he has about 23 touchdowns. So he's definitely done his work. And last year he had about 700 yards. Behind Jada, who's a 2,000 yard rusher. So now he gets a chance to be the bell cow, so to speak. And he's embracing the role. He knows the offense inside out. He has about 6.5 yards a carry last year, which was a little more than Jada did last year. Jada just had more carries, and of course, you know, and did a lot of things with his carries, of course. But Curtis was right there with him. So we're happy that he's back, and again, that room is pretty daggone full.
Dr. Alvin Parker, the head football coach at Virginia Union, joining us here on the program. I think that's interesting because, to your point, no Jada Byers, but you come back with Curtis Allen, two starting quarterbacks coming back. Yes, Reginald Vick leaves, but you're able to get Tart, an all conference guy, also What about the defense? Because the defense was solid, like good numbers. Um, you know, talk about the defense. Some of the guys you're expecting to step up, and what that's going to look like this year.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Donald. That's what happened. We took the biggest hit in the portal with the defense. I believe we had about maybe 9 or 10 starters coming back. And we lost about five of them in the portal. So but some names that you can kind of expect some big things from. Right, and one of our inside back is Lamumba Howard. He started for us last year. He did an awesome job. Kid from up there in the DC area. You know, he's a leader for us over there. So we're expecting big things from him. Down front. Kamari Frederick, who's played a lot for us the last 2 years. Um, Zachary Weaver, who put up about maybe 3 to 4 sacks last year. We brought in another transfer from Shaw, Mikal Lewis at defensive end, who we feel pretty good about. A defensive tackle, Terrence Mays, a transfer from Tuskegee that we brought in that we feel pretty good about. So, we rebuilding the defense, but we rebuild it with so much talent that, sometimes in practice, it's even hard for us to move the ball as an offense with all the talent that we have.
So no FCSs this year. The FCSs they must be running scared from you, Doctor Parker.
Look here, gift and the curse, man. I love playing up. Sometimes you just don't get the benefit when it comes times playoffs and things like that. But in terms of the competition and things, we live for it. So, not having that, we had the classic back with us going to Canton to play in that game. So that's something that's pretty good. And then the next week, well, not the next week, but our next game, we're going to go to El Waters and play in a new classic called the Unity Classic down there in Jacksonville, which is going to be something new. So we kind of took that route with scheduling this year, and we'll see how it goes. But it gives us two Division two games.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's just the way that the schedule shakes out. But how do you? So you get the classic, then a week off, then you play the rest of the season. So your bye comes after only the first game. Your thoughts on how you kind of, not play around that, but just really just your thoughts on how that shook out. I guess.
Uh, if I had it my way, I'd place right in the middle. But kind of what happened is that it works out pretty good because that our first game is on a Sunday. So, we don't have to necessarily come after that with a short week to prepare. You're talking about a Sunday evening game in Ohio, you won't get back to Richmond till late on the next day, so to speak, and it gives you a short week to prepare. So we did that I think 2 years ago, and it was, although it was different and we won the game, it made it a little difficult for our guys in terms of preparation. So I'm glad, with us playing that first game on a Sunday, we get a bye week that week right after that. So it gives us a little bit more time to kind of regroup. I think, um, I learned this from some old coaches. You get better. The largest improvement that you see is from week one to week two. In terms of your schedule. So I think with us having that bye right there in that second week in between, we can take that time to make sure we get, a lot better, before we head down Jacksonville. So I think it works out pretty good. That's just a positive of it. But again, you want to, if all is kind of, even, you want to make sure you put that by right in the middle, just so you kind of heal up and do some things before you go into the second half of your schedule. But, we embrace the way it is now, and I think it's going to work out pretty good for us.
Last thought, and of course, we're joined by Dr. Alvin Parker, the head football coach at Virginia Union. Man, I know but it's like it's one thing to kind of know, and of course, you were under Waverly Tiller for many years at Elizabeth City State. So you're a Virginia Union guy. You know what I mean. You've gotten your opportunity now and have had success at your alma mater. When you think about the totality of your career as first a student athlete, then as a coach, back at your alma mater now as the head coach, having success, what most comes to your mind?
Man, I just look back on, pay homage to some of the great coaches that have been here that have kind of done it, before me. Even the ones that coached me, I played for Willard Bailey, the great, the Hall of Famer. I was hired by Joe Taylor, another great Hall of Famer. So, it's hard not to look at those guys' careers and kind of see what they did and a lot of things that they move, and then kind of make sure you live up to what it is. Those guys laid an awesome blueprint for how success is supposed to happen at Virginia Union. I think Coach Taylor and Coach Bailey three-peated while here. So, we're set up for something like that. But, we don't want to look that far, of course. But when you look at it like that, it's hard not to say, what, make sure you do your part to carry on this success. Since I've been here, I think we're 51-15. So three straight playoff appearances. Two back-to-back champions. I mean, back-to-back champions and things like that. So I think, in terms of the way I'm leading this program and kind of carrying it, modeled after some of the greats that have been here, I want to just make sure I do my part, and get it done.
Wow, and 35-8 in conference play, which is averaging just like one loss a year. I mean, that is absolutely incredible. Dr. Alvin Parker, again, 8th season as the head football coach at Virginia Union, joining us here on Box to Row. As mentioned, the Panthers opened the season against Miles in the Pro Football Hall of Fame Classic in Canton. Coach Dr. Parker, we appreciate the time. Continued success in all you do.
Man, appreciate it. Look forward to being back on this season.
Absolutely.